Oh, hey.
Hey, thanks for meeting me here on such short notice. This place isn't bugged, is it?
Bugged? Wait, Jamie, what's going on?
It's just, you're my only lawyer friend, and I need your professional opinion. Do you see that brand new Hyundai Tucson out there?
Yeah?
That's all I paid for it.
I think I need to get back to you on that.
Do you know what you want?
Yeah, I do now.
Deal's so right, it almost feels wrong. Get the car or SUV you've always wanted, plus America's best warranty at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. The guilt is real, but so is the savings.
Listen, I don't want to get in your business, but if that's all she paid for it, I'll have what she's having.
It's a great day for a new Hyundai at the Hyundai Getaway Sales Event going on now. Get 0% APR for 60 months, plus 0 payments for 90 days on all Hyundai Palisade, Santa Fe, and Santa Fe hybrid models. And check out our other great deals at your Hyundai dealer today. Offer ends September 2nd. Call 562-314-4603 for details.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
This is a catastrophe.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
That's what I wished for when I blew out my candle.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from downtown Baton Rouge. This is Hunt Palmer.
The floor is yours.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from our studio downtown Baton Rouge. On Wednesdays, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Got Jacob Beck, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up you are here with us. Got a lot to do over the course of the next couple of hours. JD PicKell from 1-3 Sports going to be here in 15 minutes. It's What If Wednesday. Got a couple of those rolling in on Twitter. So we'll hear what y'all have to say about those things a little bit later. 2 o'clock, Matt Bellinson from the Ruston Leaders going to talk a little bit about this Louisiana Tech team. I'm finally going to go on record here with what I think the Saints' record is going to be. I'll go game by game on the schedule and talk about what I think this year has in store for the Saints. We'll do that at 2:15. SEC Power Rankings Week 2 coming at you at 2:30. So lots and lots to do here on this Tuesday. Let's crank it up the way we do every day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
All right, so I think obviously now with the LSU Clemson game very much in the rearview mirror and moving toward next week, you're really not looking at the Louisiana Tech game for some earth-shattering revelations about this team, right? You got a lot of information Saturday from the win over Clemson, and really everyone's just kind of sit on their hands and wait for Florida outside of the football program. I'm certain those guys are fired up to get out on the football field. I'm certain those guys are going to have a really good week of practice. Brian Kelly said yesterday that that would be a very spirited practice on Tuesday. And so, their business as usual over there. We're a little bit more in the real world here and understand Louisiana Tech's got a pretty uphill battle coming on Saturday. But what I've allowed myself to do this week is just kind of look at big picture things for the season. And one of the things that stood out about the game on Saturday was Brian Kelly's decision to go for the touchdown there before the half. And I gave my thoughts on it on Monday. I felt it was the wrong decision. I didn't feel like there was time to get a first down and then get a touchdown while keeping the field goal in your back pocket. I thought it was just time to kick the field goal. And Brian Kelly didn't see it that way. And he was asked about it on Monday. And then he was asked about fourth downs in general today. I shouldn't say Monday. That was Labor Day. He was asked about it yesterday in the press conference. And he admitted yesterday in the press conference that he made a mistake. But the question was asked today, what about fourth downs in general? What's your thought process? And here's what Brian Kelly had to say about fourth downs now versus earlier in his career as a head coach.
I think it's changed. I think I lean towards gaining the information from analytics. I learned a pretty good lesson this weekend that analytics also have to factor in time on the clock and the amount of possessions or chances that you would have. I know I made a mistake in going for it on the fourth down situation where we should have settled for a field goal before the half. So I like the information. I think you still have to be able to be intuitive. Just to give you an example, it was a go for us in the fourth quarter when we punted from the 40-yard line. So I think it's good to have that information, but I still think you have to be intuitive as a coach and somebody that's in real time and making those decisions.
I thought that answer was fascinating and revealing all the same. Y'all have heard me so many times talk about how little I care about press conference quotes. Like, so much of it is coach speak. So much of it is half-truth. Some of it's outright lying. Like, I don't really care about that. What do you win or do you lose? I don't care what you say at the microphone. But there are times, and I certainly will admit this, like, there are times where you get a sincere answer that is relevant and interesting, and that was one of them. Brian Kelly pointed to the fourth down in the fourth quarter. There were 4 minutes and 32 seconds to play in the game, and LSU had a 7-point lead. And it was 4th and 5 on the 40-yard line. 57-yard field goal, probably not, considering your kicker cramped up on his last field goal and missed it by 20 yards. 57 yards, not really in the cards there. Go for it on 4th and 5. You got a fifth-year senior quarterback? Maybe. But they punted, and the analytics told them to go for it. So he showed a flexibility there and a willingness to change. This defense, in my opinion, is one of the best in the Southeastern Conference, one of the best in the country. That's my opinion right now. We've seen them play 4 quarters. That's not a huge sample size, but I feel pretty damn good about it. And I think that should impact the way that you coach your team in regards to offensive fourth downs. You need to be more conservative, in my estimation, in punting the ball away to allow your defense to go play. Don't give up free field position. Don't take unnecessary risks. Make teams go down the field and beat you. And I think he showed that in the fourth quarter there. Now, Brian Kelly was pretty aggressive on fourth downs last year. You see LSU, and look, things, there are a lot baked into these numbers. I realize, like, Mississippi State led the SEC in attempted fourth downs last year. Some of that's because you're losing a lot. Some of it's because Jeff Levy comes from the Lane Kiffin tree. But LSU moved from, in 2023, now keep in mind, that 2023 team, incredible offense and no defense whatsoever. They were 10th in the league in fourth down attempts. Now, they didn't get to a lot of fourth downs. We get it. It was the best offense in the country. You don't get to a lot of fourth downs. But still, that would have been a team that you would have put out there to go for a lot of fourth downs because you knew the defense was going to give up points and the offense had a good chance to convert it. But you were 10th in the SEC in conversion attempts. And last year, that number crept up to 8th. But in numbers, you went for it 15 times in 2023. And last year, that number went up to 24. So you were more aggressive last year. I think that number is going to come down this year because of that defense. And here's the bigger piece to that entire puzzle. Brian Kelly has been at this a long time. He has been a head coach for a long time. In an unforgiving business where a lot of people get fired often, Brian Kelly has stood the test of time and coached a ton of football games. And you can say whatever you want to say about Brian Kelly as far as his win-loss record, about his success or lack thereof at LSU, about his likability, about the jokes that he tells, good or bad. There are plenty of people that think Brian Kelly's a top 5 coach in the sport. There are plenty of people that think that Brian Kelly's a terrible fit at LSU. You can say any of those things and have that claim be rooted in some truth because there's a lot of evidence out there with Brian Kelly. What you cannot suggest about Brian Kelly in his time at LSU is that he's hard-headed or stubborn or set in his ways. This man has changed course with additional information time and time and time again. Some stuff he's done that's just been like kind of simple, like the fourth down stuff. I got some analytics, says we need to go for it a little bit more often. We'll go for it more often. That's not a massive program shifting decision, but it's something that he appreciated and went for. Just about every coach in the country is going to defer when they win the toss. Brian Kelly believes that, hey, if we win the toss, it benefits us to get the ball first. It's a little bit of swimming upstream. You look at other things. He says, we're not going to buy players. He says, we're not in the business of buying players. It turned around the next recruiting cycle and spent an astronomical amount of money buying players. He came in and hired a defensive staff. It all went to hell the second year, and he let them all go. Brought in a whole new group. Like, he has time and time again shifted in order to chase these championship dreams. So once again, you can say he's a terrible fit or he's a great coach. You can say he's underachieved at LSU or he's just laying the foundation. You can say he's the most hateable coach in college football, or you can say he's the CEO's in charge of his operation. Like, good or bad, I don't really care what you say about Brian Kelly. You cannot say this guy is not flexible and willing to adapt to try to do the best thing for his football program. And to me, one of those things that has changed over the course of the last 7 days is from the time you got on that plane to go to Clemson to now, you know more about that defense. You knew what you hoped for the defense, but now you've got concrete evidence against a team with a bajillion starts on the offensive line and 2 really good returning sophomore wide receivers and a senior quarterback who's accomplished as anybody. You went out there and shoved them in a locker. So it stands to reason that moving forward this year with this defense, it's going to be really difficult for teams to move the ball and score a lot of points. So when the analytics say, hey, it's 4th and 2 from your own 41-yard line, this is a go for us, you might want to think twice about that, because you're not a great short yardage running team potentially, and you don't want to give the other team the ball at the 38-yard line when you could punt it, flip the field, and say, hey, we didn't score on that drive. Offense come off the field, but hey, you got to now go 70 against our defense instead of 38. And I think you're going to see that. And I think it's rare to me that a coach would get up there. Now, a win helps, obviously, but it's rare a coach gets in front of a microphone and says, yeah, I screwed that one up. Should have gone with the field goal. Most of the time, you're going to hear a coach double down. Yeah, our analytics say we're going to go for that, and that's what we need to do. Lane Kiffin's not going to cop to the fact that he's choked in the first half against LSU last year, going for those 4th downs. That Ole Miss defense was awesome, and he gave away 6 points on short field goal attempts because his analytics said, we're going for it. And they got stopped, and they lost in overtime. Because he didn't shift his philosophy based on the fact that he had a great defense. He didn't have a lot of great defenses in his coaching career. He did last year. He choked in Baton Rouge. I don't know what LSU's record is going to be this year. Might be 12-0, might be 8-4. I'm not sure. But what I can confidently say with evidence to support it is that Brian Kelly is likely to shift the way that he thinks based on new information. And in this case, the new information that his defense is really good and he doesn't have to push the envelope as much as he might have had to in recent years. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. But I feel pretty confident that you're going to see a more conservative coach with this roster that they spent a lot of money to go get. So that's our start to today's show, brought to you by Genesis, our opening drive. Our Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools of SEC Power Rankings coming up in the second hour. We'll have a thought on the Saints record coming up a little bit later. We'll also do What If Wednesday at 1:30 when we come back. JD PicKell, host of The Hard Count on 3 Sports, joins us.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Just an amazing facility they've got over there. No detail was too small for them. So when you go to Genesis of Baton Rouge, you will see their phenomenal facility. You will see and experience their amazing staff that treats you like a guest, not a customer. You'll see the seating areas, snack bar, coffee maker, television, secluded workstations. If you need a little bit of time while your car's being serviced to get some things done, you don't feel like you're jammed up in a dirty, crowded waiting room watching Price is Right. They've got an opportunity for you to sit, take a little bit of time off your feet. And the line of vehicles speaks for itself. It's an amazing, amazing place over there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. It's a luxury brand at a reasonable price. Most of you driving around right now have never been behind the wheel of a Genesis. You can change that. When it's time for you to get behind the wheel of a new vehicle, whether that's this week, this month, next year, just put Genesis on your list. Go by and see them airline at PQ. Check out the inventory at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Genesis of Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
Wednesday shows brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Looking to get in the pool of your dreams. Check them out online, builtbyrenaissance.com, builtbyrenaissance.com. Well, if y'all were paying attention over the summer, one of these internet personalities was suggesting that LSU was going to be pretty damn good, might win a national championship. Might have been our next guest. JD PicKell, host of the Hard Count on 3 Sports. Looking like a pretty smart guy after LSU's win over Clemson on Saturday. Welcome in, sir. How are you?
Man, I'm better now. Not too bad for an internet personality, huh?
Hey.
Talking a little ball with the guys, but I mean, what you gonna do, man? No, it was a fun game. I'm sure you enjoyed it, and it's only week one. But I've bought all the Kool-Aid, so I got it in my fridge anyway, preparing to guzzle the rest of that this college football season. Man, glad to be on with you.
Look, it's I said this after the game on my post game, and then again on my show on Monday. Like I felt like watching that game. If you told me that LSU had to go back and play Clemson again this Saturday, I'd feel just fine with it. I think LSU was better than Clemson and showed that over 4 quarters, and I think that they wouldn't have a huge issue going back and winning the game. I'm okay not doing that, but that's kind of my read on the 4 quarters. How did you see it there in South Carolina?
I think one of the more impressive things is all the things that LSU had stacked against them. You know, like going into that game, picking Clemson and Clemson being favored by 4 points was anything but irresponsible. I mean, the matchup that probably should have determined the game if you're a Clemson fan is we have 2 top 10 picks. They have an offensive line they're not sure about. Let's go get after their quarterback. Also, we're at home. Also, we have the number 1 returning production in college football. There's no half-stepping. Let's try to figure out this roster. Like, we are a ready-made operation at home week 1 with a great D-line against their questionable offensive line. And for the offensive line to play the way they did, for the defense to play the way they did, like there was so much about that game that I think speaks to, we said it on our show going into the week, I forget if you and I talked about it, Hunt, but like the emotional calibration from the staff to the leaders in that locker room to make it about Clemson all off season long from what it sounds like to then not play tight. You know, you can obsess about an opponent to a certain degree when you have months to obsess about them. And there's a certain level of that that's awesome, you know, that you're dialed on your opponent. There's also a level of that would make you concerned of, hey, if you get so teed up for that 100 meters, if you get out of the blocks too hot and you're a little bit tight, like you pop a hamstring. And so I was worried about that for LSU. We've seen that from LSU in the past. And to see them compete at the level they did in that spot on that stage against that team told me a lot about how they're wired.
Let's talk about the LSU defense. I mean, how good do you think Clemson's offense is, and what did Saturday's effort tell you about LSU's defense?
I think Clemson's offense is really good. I don't think anything less of Cade Klubnik. I do think Antonio Williams going out of the game semi-early really hurt LSU, or really hurt Clemson, in favor of LSU, because you kind of lost that guy to drop the top on a defense and really stretch the field. I think Wesco is good. I think Moore's good. I don't think they're quite the threat vertically that Williams is. But I was just impressed, Hunt, of how synced up the defense looked. Like we've talked about the personnel, and we kind of thought going into the year they had some guys that could go after the quarterback and play at a high intensity level. But the concern with the Blake Baker defense is if you're going to be aggressive, you leave yourself in some way, shape, or form exposed to getting got. And so for them to be on their P's and Q's assignment wise and to hold that Clemson defense in check, that was super impressive to me. Also, I want to make sure I add like the competitive plays element of this game that I feel like LSU won. The plays where, Klubnik breaks contain, he's got his eyes downfield. And, those were plays that honestly going into that game, I was a touch concerned about for LSU just because, we've seen mobile quarterbacks hurt LSU before. And to see Perkins get after him, Weeks get after him at the degree they did, the consistency they did without the big plays happening, gave me a lot of confidence in what that defense is going to be the rest of the year. They might just be good. Like, it might just be a good defense.
I think it is. We kind of thought that after a few weeks of camp, and there was a lot of validation in what we saw on Saturday. Do you think Clemson's the best team in the ACC?
That's a really good question. I'll say yes for the sheer fact of I trust the DNA of Clemson probably more than I trust Miami right now. But that conference just got a whole lot more interesting. After 1 week, too, I didn't have Miami in my playoff preseason, but after that win over that Notre Dame team, told me a lot about how they're wired, too. So I'll say I don't think they're probably the better team in the ACC over Clemson, but I tell you what, that gap is a lot closer than what I thought it was going into the weekend, Hunt.
Let's talk about Alabama and Florida State. Speaking of the ACC, what was your takeaway from that game? I'll just kind of leave that open-ended.
Oof. How long do we have? This is what, a 10, 15-minute spot?
we got a few minutes.
You want to go another hour here? there's been so much discussion after the game about how unprepared Alabama looked and the fact that it was Florida State. Hunt, just to echo what everyone else has said throughout sports media this week, it's not the fact they lost, it's the way they looked when they lost. Like, I was so shocked at the fact that Alabama was the second most intense team on the field that day when Thomas Castellanos is calling out the whole team, talking about how Saban can't save them. You got guys at media days from Bama saying disrespect will be addressed. And, like, I didn't see any disrespect be addressed at all. Like, maybe it was addressed in the direct messages saying, hey, Tommy, don't do that. It hurts our feelings. But, like, I saw a team that, quite frankly, walked into a hostile environment and just got it taken to them and did nothing about it. Like there was, I mean, the entire time, if you're a Bama fan, you're like, do something. Like, show me there's some pulse of competitiveness here. And Florida State was that team on that day. So I think that's what scares me the most from Bama. It's not just the fact that we got beat. It's that we didn't look competitive. And then, two, we had every reason to be competitive. The fact that we won 9 games last year, the fact that the quarterback called us out, like, can you imagine what a Saban Bama would have done to that team? Like, the amount of initiative they would have taken, how personal they would have taken, Castellanos' comments, it would have been a bloodbath. But alas, we turned the page on a new Bama.
How fixable do you think those issues are?
I think they're fixable. I don't think they're go to the mechanic shop and get the tires switched fixable. I think it is hey, you have to drop it off with us. We'll call you in a week. It might be 2 weeks. Hey, actually, we found this part that's wrong too. I think the problems are more deep-seated than one team meeting and one players-only group chat conversation. Like, I think it's going to take a second. So, I mean, we could fast forward the tape here a month and say if at the end of this month and, they go to Athens, they beat Georgia, maybe we all calm down a little bit. But those, like the consistency and the intentionality, like those things to me don't get fixed in the matter of a week. So they got some soul searching to do.
What's your gut tell you on Bama's record at the end of it? I won't hold you to it.
I don't think they beat Georgia. I don't think they beat LSU. I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped one more they weren't supposed to drop. So I think 9-3, 8-4 is probably about fair for Bama.
Be some questions to answer in Tuscaloosa if that's the case. They just don't really stand for that too much there in T-Town. So, all right, you're Texas, Ohio State. You learn more about Texas or Ohio State on Saturday?
I feel like learn more about Ohio State. Like, didn't that game feel a little bit like in the first half, going into the second half, like kind of third quarter range? I was like, this is Michigan, Ohio State. This is low scoring. This is ugly. This is line of scrimmage. This is not a lot from either quarterback. And for Ohio State to win a game like that, now I know it wasn't the maize and blue on the other side, and I know Michigan fans like to talk about the mental game that is for the Buckeyes, so I'm not going to touch that part of it. But the style of game, if you told me Ohio State's going to score 14 points on the Friday going into that game, I'd be like, okay, so Texas obviously won the game. Like, by how much is my question, and what Arch Manning do? So for them to win that game in that style, I think says a lot about the DNA that they have. And I also think it deserves to be mentioned, like, the lack of complacency from Ohio State, because that was kind of the question, I think, all offseason for a lot of folks was, well, you win the national title, got to be a hangover, right? Well, you lose Will Howard. Well, you lose both your coordinators. And to me, Ohio State looks like the team that had something to prove in that game. That was the team that, missed the national title by a game 2 years in a row, and not Texas. So the edge that Ohio State played with and the way they met that moment was really impressive to me.
You got an Arch thought?
I think he's going to be okay. Don't you think? I mean, I think he's like, I know everyone talks about the last name being the reason for the hype, and I understand that, but the last name to me also says 24 hours before that game is history. I get to talk to Uncle Peyton, Uncle Eli. I get to talk to my head coach, Steve Sarkisian, who's a QB guru. Like, I think there's too much around him for this to just be who he is. What I saw was a dude who was super talented, look extremely tight. Like the throws he was missing, it wasn't like he was just off on the deep ball or anything like that. It was like he's missing wide open crossers. Like he's skipping the ball to a receiver downfield while he's on the run early in the game. Like he looks so tight, so in his head. And so I think he has the resources around him to get that right. But I'll tell you what, Hunt, that game in a few weeks here where they go to the Swamp, if he looks like that again in that environment, I'm not out on Arch at that point, but I will start to get a lot more worried about what he's going to be in the context of what we expected Texas to be, which is, quite frankly, a team that can compete for a national championship. And maybe this year, should go win a national championship with that defense. So a lot to be uncovered here over the course of these next 2 weeks.
Coming up this weekend, Oklahoma hosting Michigan. This is Brent Venables' shot to get an early win this year and kind of cool things down in Norman. You think they get it done?
I do. I'm surprised with that line. 6 points favoring Oklahoma feels like a lot, especially after what Michigan did at the end of last year, beating those teams in Alabama and Ohio State. But I don't love the idea of a true freshman going to Norman against a Brent Venables defense. Bryce Underwood, as most folks in Baton Rouge know now, is a different caliber of competitor, but I don't know that they have enough built out around him to go score for score with what I think that John Material offense is going to do. So I don't feel incredibly confident about it. I wouldn't take Michigan to win, but I would take them to cover.
Is there any other game that's particularly interesting to you coming up this weekend?
It's kind of what I say, it's always the quiet ones.
Yeah.
A couple, that's not a couple years ago. It was last year where we had that weekend where it was very quiet, not much going on in the state, and then Vandy takes down Bama and Arkansas beats Tennessee. I think it was in the same weekend.
It was.
You know what? I think the Cyhawk will be fun. I'm excited to learn a little bit more about what that new Iowa offense is supposed to look like. I'm still not out on Baylor either. I think them going to SMU, I think they actually win that game outright. They're a 3-point dog. So there's still something on the board here for us to look at, and some nice little appetizers. Here's a kind of a sicko special, if you will. Friday night, JMU and Louisville. JMU could be that G5 team makes a playoff run. So if they get this one against Louisville, the Fighting Bobby Chesneys could maybe be your playoff team and find their way into the dance with a nice little resume booster there if they go undefeated the rest of the way.
We'll see. Enjoy the football this weekend. We'll talk next week. LSU in Florida will be on the menu next.
Here we go. Hunt, you're the man. Appreciate you, brother. Talk to you soon.
JD PicKell, host of the Hard Count on 3 Sports, the On 3 YouTube channel, wherever you find your podcast as well. The Hard Count. JD's awesome. Give us a little bit of time each and every Wednesday. We're brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. Got some what ifs rolling in on the Twitter sphere. If you're in the Bayou Ford chat right now and want to throw us some what ifs for the next segment, we can have some of those. Get ready to roll. And then second hour is going to be real busy. We're going to start with a look at Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. Going to talk to Matt Bellinson from the Ruston Leader. I want to give you my Saints record prediction on the record at 2:15, and then we'll do some power rankings at 2:30 as well. So lots to get to. Don't go anywhere. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Captives are the future of insurance, perhaps the present in a lot of cases of insurance. If you handle the insurance program for a business, you're a business owner, and you haven't looked at a captive and you feel like you've put a significant amount into the premium bucket every single year, but your losses are good, if your loss history is great, and you've got sizable premium there, it could be a game changer for your business's bottom line from a risk management perspective. Jonathan Carver and his team at the Highland Insurance Group handle captives every single day. So if you haven't been presented that option, maybe your broker's not capable, doesn't have access to captives. The Highland Insurance Group does. Check them out online at HighlandIG.com. They're based right here in Baton Rouge. They can help you out statewide. If you're a business owner or handle the insurance for a business, you spend significant amount on premium, loss history is good, and you've never looked at a captive, this is the time. It's the Highland Insurance Group. Find them online, HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
For hanging out with us here on this Wednesday. Our Wednesday show is brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. I tell you every single week, if you've always thought about having a pool in the backyard but never made that dream a reality, well, this summer is just about in the rearview mirror, so that time's just about come and gone. There's always another summer coming around, and they come pretty quick around here. Our winter months are not very long. So if you want to make sure that by next spring and into the summertime, you've got that pool of your dreams, then contact my guy, Joey Blanchard at Renaissance Homes and Pools. The process is seamless, and he's involved from start to finish. You sit down and you go through that consultation, he's there. You go through the design phase, he's there. They've got incredible software that can allow you to see to scale exactly what your pool is going to look like before they ever put a shovel in the ground. Want to put an outdoor kitchen there to complete your outdoor space? They can do that for you at Renaissance Homes and Pools as well. The time to dig, Joey's there. Time to fill, Joey's there. Time for the completion of that project, Joey is there. Obviously, the scale of the project as well as the weather are going to impact exactly how long it takes to get things done. But Joey's told me it's not uncommon to get things done in just a couple of months, 6 to 8 weeks, potentially, again, depending on the size and the weather. Renaissance Homes and Pools are built by Renaissance.com, built by Renaissance.com. They bring you our Wednesday shows each and every week. All right, time for What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
All right, first one here. What if you could only watch in person or on TV either LSU or LSU football for the next 10 years?
LSU baseball or LSU football? Is that what we're looking at here? For 10 years? It's not a secret. I like LSU baseball more than LSU football. And I'm obviously if I'm reading this literally, it comes in off Twitter, the radio is an option for me here. So I'm going to be able to stay abreast.
I feel like,
I'm probably I'll go to the football games.
Okay.
Now, that's a dumb answer because I literally can't go to half the football games because I don't travel with the network. So I could just listen in the studio where I am, where the game's broadcast. But I like to go inside Tiger Stadium when there's 100,000 people in there and it's a big game. And we're going to get that in 2 weeks, and that's really fun. I'll keep up with LSU baseball via the radio. I will enjoy Chris on the call. Unfortunately, I'd like to go to some games. But I guess that's got to be the answer. It pains me, but it's what it's got to be.
All right, next one here. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the way this one's obviously written. Not very.
They all come from Twitter.
They come from Twitter.
Give the folks some leeway.
Next one here. What if we don't use Nick Anderson? This person said like we should be, which I mean that's obviously subjective, but I guess the real what if is like what if we don't use Nick Anderson, kind of similarly to how they didn't really use CJ Daniels maybe as much as they could have, and possibly why he transferred to Miami. What if they handle Nick Anderson the same way?
I'm a little bit intrigued by the fact that CJ Daniels just never really got it going here. I mean, didn't have a touchdown catch last year. He wasn't a complete non-factor, but he was below the radar for sure. Nick Anderson is a little bit of an unknown because he didn't play last year for Oklahoma, and he didn't participate much in the spring, and he didn't run with the ones in camp. So suggesting that he's going to be like some sort of 1,100-yard receiver here, that's not going to happen. It would take significant injuries and significant progression from him to get him to that point, and I don't think that's realistic to expect. He does have a great skill set, and it is different than everybody else in the wide receiver group. May not have the high-end speed that Brown and Hilton do, but he does have elite size. He also has shown himself to be a good receiver down the field. He was a deep threat for Oklahoma for sure, and he just gives you a bigger body type than Kyle Parker or Aaron Anderson or Chris Hilton or any of those guys. So I think that this week, this will be something I talk about a little bit more tomorrow and Friday. But I think you do see the passing game really step out on Saturday. It was a run-heavy game plan on Saturday, and Clemson's good in the secondary and made some things tough on LSU. And I don't think LSU wanted to lean on sitting back in the pocket and throwing the ball down the field against a really good pass rush like Clemson had. So most of the stuff was quick and around the line of scrimmage, and that suits Aaron Anderson, that suits Davion Thomas, that suits those guys. It doesn't necessarily suit Nick Anderson as well. He's more of a downfield threat. I think he'll have multiple catches in this game on Saturday, and I think they'll try to ease him in because his skill set's different than everybody else. But I do think that he's probably 4th or 5th in the pecking order from a wide receiver perspective at this point.
All right, next one here. What if Myers Palmer continues his ascent to being a generational talent in soccer?
I don't know if that's the ascent that we're on here.
I said, what if, Hunt? This is a what if.
If he becomes a generational talent in soccer, that's good. No, he's going to have to live a long way from his mom, which is going to be a problem for her because he's going to be
somewhere in Europe, probably.
And I'm not going to live there.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Hunt. You don't have to live there, okay? Because obviously, if he does become a player of that caliber and is that good,
one of the greatest players in the world. There's a lot of
no. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying if he becomes a really good talent, let's just say for example, he takes the same trajectory as Christian Pulisic, who is currently considered the best American player in soccer. He plays for AC Milan, which is in Milan, Italy.
Okay,
and he makes a very large amount of money.
Good,
and I'm sure that he very easily can have his family flown out to Milan.
Good.
And see the games, and they can probably do some traveling and all that stuff. So you don't have to live there.
Private aviation's good.
Yeah, I'm sure you can handle that.
But
so
we'll still be calling Baton Rouge home at that point.
Of course.
But yeah, that'd be great. If he's super rich, that's awesome. Rich is cool. I like rich.
But it's funny just thinking about you having a son that's so good at a sport that you really don't care about.
Spend a lot of time in Italy. I'm not trying.
Really, you don't want to go to Italy, Hunt? It's like one of the most favorable travel destinations in the world.
Yeah, I'm good here.
All right, next one. What if we didn't make the personnel changes in the front office, namely bringing back Austin Thomas? How does that change the roster construction for this season / the methods that they used?
Hard to say. Certainly, I think it's a step in the right direction for LSU to have that type of front office to help manage money, because that's not something that head coaches in college have done. And now it's a very, very important aspect of the job. And so for Brian Kelly to have to deal with that all day, every day would just be a little bit more than what he needs to be doing. He needs to be focused on coaching his team on the field. So it's the right thing to do. Do I think it would have had a huge impact on this roster? Maybe not, because they just made those changes in the summer of this year, and you already had the transfer portal class that came in January. So I know Austin Thomas was here, but a lot of the guys that they put around him came in the spring and early summer of this year. So I think this was a concentrated effort from Austin Thomas, Brian Kelly, and the collective to get this money together and get this team together. I think moving forward is where you see the bigger impact from it.
All right, let's take one from the YouTube chat here. There's a couple of them that aren't great, but we got one here. What if Alabama?
There's a couple that aren't great.
I mean, look, I was thinking about doing what if Hunt gave respect to Vandy and Missouri, but we don't even need to consider that because it's just not even possible. Like there's no realm of it happening. Even
if they had any good football players, I'd respect their programs.
Okay, all right. We'll take this one though. What if Alabama now keeps a fully fueled jet on the tarmac during each game, just in case?
I don't think that's coming immediately, but if they lose to Wisconsin next week, you can start to see the writing on the wall. I mean, they're just I don't know how much money Alabama has behind that football program. I don't know how this era compares to 15 years ago, but they're not going to sit here and let Kalen DeBoer let this thing slip into to the abyss. So again, I'm not suggesting they're going to lose to Wisconsin. I don't think that's going to happen in Tuscaloosa. But if they lose to Wisconsin, and now all of a sudden you got a losing record against the P5, you can't. That's an unacceptable outcome. So yeah, we'll see.
All right, last one. What if you had unlimited funds to buy one sports memorabilia item? What item are you buying for the man cave? I guess is where you probably put it.
I have never even given that just a thought at all. I'm not a big memorabilia guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have this something that I just think would be so awesome to have. I'm thinking about the baseball Rizzo put in his pocket when the Cubs won the World Series. I'm thinking about something from Augusta National. I'm sure they've got something in that clubhouse, whether it's a Tiger putter or a Samsonite iron or something at Augusta that I would think was awesome.
Yeah,
but it's a bad answer. I need to be quicker on my feet than that, but there's nothing that I would just go, I gotta have that.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of it either. My initial thought was something maybe like the bat that David Ross used at the home run. I don't know, something like maybe from 2016 for Cubs, but I don't know. Initially, I don't think of anything with LSU. I don't know, just because if you have unlimited funds, you'd want to go for something that's like very valuable, I feel. So I don't know. That's a tough one.
It is. Maybe I should give that more thought. Maybe so. We'll do that in the commercial break. Might have something to say. There's a story I want to get to at the end of the hour. It's not local, but it could be absolutely massive in the sports world. We'll talk about that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. They can do a wholesale renovation of your bathroom. If your home is 25 to 30 years old, that's the point. David says a lot of times some of the plumbing fixtures and some of the things in the bathroom tend to start wearing down, breaking down. So if you've got one of those classic 90s setups that have the standalone shower and they've got the big jacuzzi-style tub, one of the things that David and his team do all the time is take that standalone shower out, make that a linen closet. It's about the right size for that. And then where that big jacuzzi was that you never use, they put in a walk-in shower. If you don't ever sit in the bathtub, you don't need that huge thing taking up space, use that space more efficiently. Put that walk-in shower in. Changes the aesthetic functionality of your bathroom, adds some value to your home, and he can do it from start to finish. You don't have to call 3 different contractors to get this done or that done. You call one. David Duvall in One Bath and Closets. He makes it happen. He's got a master plumber on staff. He's got a great team that can get your job finished quickly. They'll do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's One Bath and Closets. Find them online. OneBathAndClosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools.
So, to close up the hour, this is not a local story, but I do think it's one that could shake the core of American sports if there's some more digging done into this. For those unfamiliar, Pablo Torre, longtime guest on Around the Horn, but journalist, has launched a podcast. It's called Pablo Finds Out, and he is just an investigator now. Like he's uncovering things in the world of sports. And his latest podcast deals with the signing of Kawhi Leonard with the Los Angeles Clippers. And essentially, if I boil this entire thing down, there are details, and he reported it, and he shows his work in the podcast. Essentially, what this boils down to is the Clippers signed Kawhi Leonard to a deal that was less than what he could have gotten elsewhere in the league, but they used a fraudulent tree company to funnel him an extra $28 million. And Torre went to this fraudulent tree company, studied their books, looked at their creditors when they filed bankruptcy, and one of them is KL2 LLC, which Kawhi Leonard and his basketball number 2, you go and you look their registration up, and you get Kawhi Leonard as the owner of said LLC, and this fraudulent tree company owed him $7 million annually over 4 years. So Pablo Torre went to this tree company that Steve Ballmer's associated with and found employees and finally got one to speak to him on the record, recorded, and they said, yeah, this was an endorsement deal that we had signed, but there was no actual endorsing going on. Kawhi Leonard never mentioned him on social media. Kawhi Leonard never did a commercial. Kawhi Leonard never wore a shirt or attended a fundraiser. He just got $7 million every year. So what they're now suggesting, or what Torre is reporting, is that the Clippers were just circumventing the salary cap by paying Kawhi Leonard on the side through a fraudulent company that has now gone bankrupt. And that is shaking the sport to its core. Because if we find out that this is something that is commonplace in sports, like, you're now just flagrantly breaking the rules. Because money is one thing, and I don't care how much Texas pays their defensive end in college, because there's no limit on that. But theoretically, in the NBA, in the NFL, you're confined to talent acquisition by a salary cap that everyone's supposed to play by the same rules. And if you're very clearly not with one of the best, 10 players in the NBA to bring him in under the salary cap and just paying him through the back door, we got a big problem. Big problem. And that's the inference here with Torre's reporting. Now, I don't know if the NBA is going to release a statement on this. I don't know if they're going to launch an investigation. But the podcast that Torre put out gives a lot of his work being checked. This is not just him jumping on a 20-minute episode and saying, this is what I found out. He shows the images of the banking records and the creditors and the bankruptcy filings. And he shows all of the different documents, paperworks, and sources that he's used to obtain very clear dots to connect here. So I'm of the belief, without knowing the entirety of the story and without spending any more time other than watching on this Instagram video, I'm willing to suggest that it's very likely this happened intentionally to circumvent the salary cap and break the rules. If that is the case, Steve Ballmer's got to go. He can't be the owner anymore. There'll be another disgraced Clippers owner. And there probably needs to be a league-wide investigation on whether or not Ballmer is the only guy doing this. Because it would stand to reason that if one guy's doing it, it's probably happening elsewhere.
And this is going to get ugly there's no way that we're not going to be hearing more from this. And Steve Ballmer is very wealthy. He's one of the richest men in the United States. I'm sure he has a very established legal team, and they will be attacking this head on, and it's just going to be very ugly. And I don't know how, if David Stern was still the commissioner of the NBA, I would feel pretty good about how he would handle it because he was very good at handling things. But I don't know how Adam Silver is going to do. He hasn't really shown too much force, at least from what we've seen. So this is going to be a very, very interesting development over the next year.
It's cool to be the commissioner of sport when you can sit courtside and you can fly around all the finals games.
And you got to deal with this.
Then this happens, and you got not a lot of fun. Cool to be Jay Monahan, head on to the Masters and the Players, go check out the U.S. Open, then one Saudi group tries to buy the half the sport. Things get a little dicey. So I think there's more to this story that'll be learned, and Pablo Torre is good at this stuff, and he made it happen. That's it for hour number one here on this Wednesday, brought to you by Renaissance Homes and Pools. When we come back, we're going to look at the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. Power rankings coming up at the bottom of the hour.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Renaissance Homes and Pools, built by Renaissance.com. It doesn't matter what type of pool you're looking for. If you've got young kids and you want them to grow up with that great, big, fun pool that they've always wanted, that you've always wanted, they make that happen at Renaissance Homes and Pools. You want to put in something smaller like a cocktail pool, don't have a ton of space, you just want to be able to get in, cool off, maybe read, grab a drink, do that as well. If you got grandkids, make that happen. You want an outdoor kitchen to go with your pool, kind of make it an entertaining area. Renaissance Homes and Pools can help you out with all of that. The best part, working with Renaissance, you work with Joey Blanchard, the owner, step by step. You're dealing with the owner of the company. That is such a rarity these days. Sometimes you're working with an employee on how invested somebody is. Not with Renaissance Homes and Pools. You work with Joey. He's done it for dozens and dozens and dozens of folks in the Baton Rouge area. He can put your pool in as well. Built by Renaissance.com. Built by Renaissance.com.